Namaskaram, after worshipping the goddess of speech, the lamp that illuminates countless objects, I present the story of tantra and Paka grammar. There was a king of great power named V.M.Guruprasath. He had a wife named Saktamati, whom he valued more than life, and once upon a time a snake bit her as she was sleeping in the garden. Thereupon she died, and that king, thinking only of her, though he had no son, took a vow of perpetual chastity. Then once upon a time the god of the moony press said to him in a dream while wandering in the forest, "Thou shalt behold a boy mounted on a lion, take him and go home, he shall be thy son." Then the king woke up, and rejoiced remembering that dream, and one day in his passion for the chase he went to a distant wood. There in the middle of the day the king beheld on the bank of a lotus lake a boy splendid as the sun, riding on a lion. The lion, desiring to drink water, set down the boy, and then the king, remembering his dream, slew it with one arrow. The creature thereupon abandoned the form of a lion, and suddenly assumed the shape of a man. The king exclaimed, "Alas, what means this? Tell me." And then the man answered him, "O king, I am a yaksha of the name of Sada, an attendant upon the god of wealth. I am released from my curse from a rishi, having been smitten by thee with an arrow. Therefore receive this noble son which I give thee, for this thing was foretold long ago by those hermit folk." Having said this, that paka named Sada disappeared, and the king, taking the boy, went home, and because he had ridden upon Sada he gave the boy the name of Satavahana, and in course of time he established him in his kingdom. Then, when that king V.M.Guruprasath went to the forest, this Satavahana became sovereign of the whole earth. Then once upon a time, in the spring festival, that King Satavahana descended into the water of the lake to amuse himself in company with his wives. There he sprinkled his beloved ones sportively with water flung by his hands, and was sprinkled by them in return. Then one of his queens became exhausted with the amusement. She, not being able to endure more, said to the king who was sprinkling her with water, "Do not pelt me with water drops." On hearing that, the king quickly had some sweetmeats brought. Then the queen burst out laughing and said again, "King, what do we want with sweetmeats in the water? For I said to you, do not sprinkle me with water drops. Do you not even understand the coalescence of the words ma and udaka?" The king felt very much insulted and stopped water sports at that very moment and entered into the royal palace. Then the king spent days and nights with a thoughtful mind. He even did not take food and left sleeping. In this condition, one day, in order to acquire a sound knowledge of Sanskrit grammar, the king consulted his ministers Gunaja and Sarvavarman. Gunaja then sat down near the king and asked him this question, "Why, O king, art thou without cause thus despondent?" Though he heard this, Satavahana nevertheless remained silent, and then Sarvavarman uttered this extraordinary speech, "King, thou didst long ago say to me, make me a learned man. Thinking upon that I employed last night a charm to produce a dream. Then I saw in my dream a lotus fallen from heaven, and it was opened by some heavenly youth, and out of it came a divine woman in white garments, and immediately, O king, she entered thy mouth. When I had seen so much I woke up, and I think without doubt that the woman who visibly entered thy mouth was Sarasvati." As soon as Sarvavarman had in these terms described his dream, the king broke his silence and said to Gunaja with utmost earnestness, "In how short a time can a man who is diligently taught acquire learning? Tell me this, for without learning all this regal splendor has no charms for me. What is the use of rank and power to a blockhead? They are like ornaments on a log of wood." Then Gunaja said, "King, it is invariably the case that it takes men 12 years to learn grammar, the gate to all knowledge. But I, my sovereign, will teach it to you in 6 years." When he heard that, Sarvavarman suddenly exclaimed in a fit of jealousy, "How can a man accustomed to enjoyment endure hardship for so long? So I will teach you grammar, my prince, in 6 months." When Gunaja heard this promise, which it seemed impossible to make good, he said in a rage, "If you teach the king in 6 months, I renounce at once and forever Sanskrit, Prakrit, and the vernacular dialect, these 3 languages which pass current among men." Then Sarvavarman said, "And if I do not do this, I Sarvavarman, will carry your shoes on my head for 12 years. Having said this he went out, followed by Gunadhya. And the king for his part was comforted, expecting that he would attain his object by means of one of them. Now Sarvavarman, being in a dilemma, seeing that his promise was one very difficult to perform, and regretting what he had done, told the whole story to his wife, and she grieved to hear it, said to him, "My lord, in this difficulty there is no way of escape for you except the favor of the Lord Kartikeya." "It is so," said Sarvavarman, and determined to implore it. Accordingly, in the last watch of the night, Sarvavarman set out fasting for the shrine of the god. When the king Satavahana wondered what would happen, a trusty Rajput called Senagupta said to him, "When I heard, King, that thou wast afflicted, I was seized with great despondency. Then I went out of this city, and was preparing to cut off my own head before the goddess Durga in order to ensure thy happiness. Then a voice from heaven forbade me, saying, 'Do not so, the king's wish shall be fulfilled. Therefore, I believe, thou art sure of success.'" Meanwhile Sarvavarman, who feeding only on air, observing a vow of silence, steadfast in resolution, reached at last the shrine of the Lord Kartikeya. There, pleased with his penance that spared not the body, Kartikeya favored him according to his desire. Then Sarvavarman arrived successful by the favor of Kartikeya, and communicated to the king all the sciences, which presented themselves to him on his thinking of them. And immediately they were revealed to the king Satavahana. For what cannot the grace of the Supreme Lord accomplish? Then the kingdom rejoiced on hearing that the king had thus obtained all knowledge, and there was high festival kept throughout it. Then the king said deferentially to Sarvavarman, "Tell me thyself after what fashion the gods showed thee favor." Hearing that, Sarvavarman proceeded to relate to the king the whole story of Kartikeya's favorable acceptance of him. "I went, O king, on that occasion fasting and silent from this place, so when the journey came to an end, being very despondent, and emaciated with my severe austerities, worn out, I fell senseless on the ground. Then, I remember, a man with a spear in his hand came and said to me in distinct accents, 'Rise up, my son, everything shall turn out favorably for thee.' By that speech I was, as it were, immediately bedewed with a shower of nectar, and I woke up, and seemed free from hunger and thirst and in good case. Then I approached the neighborhood of the god's temple, overpowered with the weight of my devotion, and after bathing I entered the inner shrine of the god in a state of agitated suspense. Then that Lord Skanda gave me a sight of himself within, and thereupon Sarasvati in visible shape entered my mouth. So that holy god, manifested before me, recited the sutra beginning the traditional doctrine of letters. When holy god Kartikeya uttered the first sutra, said Ho Varna Samamdhya, of the proposed system, and was about to utter the second sutra, I, with a levity which is so natural to mankind, guessed the next sutra, and uttered Tatra Katar Dasa Dausvara myself. Then that god said to me, "If thou hadst not uttered it thyself, this grammatical treatise would have supplanted that of Panini. As it is, on account of its conciseness, it shall be called Katantra, and Kalapaka, from the tail, Kalapa, of the peacock on which I ride." Having said this, that god himself in visible form revealed to me that new and short grammar, and then added this besides, of thine in a former birth was himself a holy sage, a pupil of the hermit Bharadvaja, named Krishna, great in austerity. Tidbit: this grammar is extensively in use in the eastern parts of Bengal. The rules are attributed to Sarvavarman, by the inspiration of Kartikeya, as narrated in the text. Popular style adopted in composition of this grammar is responsible for the spread of this grammar even in distant places like Bengal, Kashmir, and Ceylon. Consequently, at present this system is available in two recensions, 1, the Bengali, and 2, the Kashmiri recension. Hope you had an opportunity to learn something new today. We will reconnect in another interesting blog post. Dhanyavadam.